There's a place in Vermont where people vanish without a trace. No bodies, no clues, no explanations. Locals call it the Bennington Triangle, a region so ordinary on the map, yet infamous among hikers, hunters, and even police. Between 1945 and 1950, 5 people disappeared inside these woods, each one under completely different circumstances, and yet somehow all connected by one mountain, Glastonbury. Some say it's cursed. Others say it's something else entirely. Because once you step inside these forests, you might not walk out again. Before the disappearances, there was Glastonbury, a small 1800s logging town built deep within the Green Mountains. At first, it thrived, but then strange things started happening. Tools went missing, voices echoed from nowhere. Entire work crews swore they heard their names being whispered in the dark. Locals described stretches of woods that would suddenly fall completely silent. No birds, no wind, no sound at all. Soon, logging stopped. The railroad collapsed. The town was abandoned. Nature reclaimed everything. But even before settlers arrived, the Abenaki tribe refused to step foot on the mountain. They spoke of a stone that swallows men, a cursed pit where anyone who stepped on it would never return. By the 1890s, Glastonbury had died, and the mountain stood alone again, as if it wanted it that way. It all began again in 1945. A seasoned outdoorsman named Mitty Rivers led a small hunting party into the Glastonbury wilderness. He was 74, but he knew those woods better than anyone alive. Late one afternoon, as the group made their way down a familiar trail, Mitty walked a few steps ahead. Just a few. When the others rounded the bend, he was gone. No struggle, no sound, no trace. Search teams combed the area for weeks. They found nothing, except a single rifle cartridge in a nearby stream. For a man who had spent his life surviving in the wild, his disappearance made no sense. Locals began saying it again. The mountain took him. A year later, Paula Weldon, an 18-year-old college student, decided to go for a short hike on the long trail near Bennington. She told her roommate she'd be back before dinner. It was a clear day. She wore a bright red coat, impossible to miss against the snow. Several people saw her walking toward the trail, and then she simply stopped existing. She never came home. The search that followed was one of the largest in Vermont's history. Hundreds of people scoured the woods, dogs, helicopters, even the FBI got involved. Yet, there were no footprints, no fabric, no body. Her disappearance was so baffling that Vermont was forced to form its first state police force just to handle it. Nearly 80 years later, not a single clue has ever been found. A red coat should have been easy to find, unless the forest decided otherwise. Over the next few years, the disappearances continued. James Tedford, 1949. A war veteran boarded a bus to Bennington after visiting family. Every passenger remembered him sitting by the window, When the bus arrived at his stop, he was gone. His belongings were still there: ticket, suitcase, open timetable. But the man himself had simply vanished. Paul Jepson, 1950. 8 years old. He was last seen sitting in his mother's pickup as she tended livestock near the base of the mountain. When she came back, the door was open and Paul was gone. Bloodhounds tracked his scent up the same trail Paula Weldon took, and then the trail just stopped, as if he'd lifted into the air. Frida Langer, 1950. Only 2 weeks later, Frida went hiking with her cousin. She slipped into a stream and said she'd return to camp to change her clothes. She never came back. 7 months later, her body was discovered in an open clearing that had been searched dozens of times before. No one could explain how it ended up there, or what happened to her in those 7 missing months. 5 people, 5 vanishings, all within the same 10-mile radius. No one has ever been able to explain what happened in the Bennington Triangle. Some believe it was the work of a serial killer, someone who knew the terrain and used the forest to hide the evidence. Others blame magnetic anomalies in the area, strange forces that interfere with compasses and disorient the human mind. And of course, there are those who point to the sky. Reports of unidentified lights above Glastonbury Mountain have existed since the 1940s. Some say the disappearances were abductions. But the locals, they still whisper a different theory: that the forest itself is alive, that Glastonbury is hungry, and every few decades, it takes what it wants. Even today, hikers report that same chilling silence, the moment when every bird and every insect goes quiet all at once, when the air feels thicker and you can't shake the feeling that something is watching you. A park ranger once said, "It's not the kind of silence you hear, it's the kind that hears you back." Maybe the truth isn't supernatural, but psychological. The Bennington Triangle sits in one of the most isolated, uncharted regions of Vermont. Dense woods, uneven terrain, magnetic rock formations. The mountain could easily distort both direction and time perception, especially to those unfamiliar with its landscape. But maybe there's something deeper. What if people don't just get lost in the Bennington Triangle? What if they're drawn in? Maybe this place hides something ancient, something that calls out, softly. And when you follow that voice, even for a moment, you never come back.